Hey there, you are right here where the mind meets the movement. My name's Anneke, I'm the founder of Network Yoga Therapy and welcome at this Network Yoga Therapy masterclass series. This is a series of 4 masterclasses this time and these are about sound. And we're very happy to invite Nitya Mohan as a very special guest in this series of masterclasses. So I will introduce her in a little bit, but before we start, I would like to talk about a few practical things with you. So first, please turn off your mobile devices or at least turn off the sound. So maybe put it on airplane modus so that there's no distraction from there. Also, to remove a little bit more distraction, just close the other tabs that are open on your screen. So maybe you're behind the computer, just close your tabs. Then, like I said, this is a series of 4 masterclasses. This is the first masterclass, so 3 more will follow every week. They will just hop into your email inbox. So no worries about when to watch it or where to watch it. It's all your choice. One more thing. Please check out the comment space. If you scroll down a little bit, you will see that there's a little square, a little comment space where you can leave your comments throughout this class. So please use this space so that you can share your new gained insight with the community, and also maybe you can connect with the community this way. So everybody who's interested can use this space to comment. And last but not least, very important, please share this masterclass with your friends, with your colleagues who may benefit from this. As you know, we are creating these masterclasses for free for you to enjoy, but it would be very helpful if you share with as many people as possible this message and this beautiful masterclass that we're creating for you. So now I would like to introduce you Nitya Mohan. So Nitya is the daughter of A.G. Mohan and Indra Mohan from Chennai, and those are my teachers. So this is also how I met Nitya. And she's also the director. She lives in Singapore. She's the director of the Svastha Yoga and Ayurveda programs in Singapore, and she's been teaching for over 25 years already. She holds a degree in music and is an exponent of Sanskrit and Vedic chanting. She is trained from a very young age in yoga and in music. In her holistic teachings, she's combining all the streams of this classical yoga, music, mantra, and Sanskrit. So it's very beautiful combination. So then my name is Anneke Sips. I'm from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam. I'm a psychiatric nurse and I'm also one of the few yoga therapists here in the Netherlands. I'm practicing yoga since I was 18 years old, and I really like to combine yoga practices and the work I do in psychiatry as a nurse and create yoga therapy programs for other people to join, for clients, but also for other yoga therapists and teachers. So I'm really happy that I can share my knowledge through this whole platform of Network Yoga Therapy together with beautiful teachers that are really part of our vision as well. Because I would like to share our vision actually. Network Yoga Therapy is all about sharing a clear and clean, authentic and custom-made yoga practices, and so that it becomes an extension of as many lives as possible. And we like to equip the people with the realization of their limitless potential, and maybe even to change the subcultures the people are in. And also I hope it brings the awareness and it will support a positive footprint for the next generations as well. So I guess you are having similar vision, otherwise probably you wouldn't be here. So let's just dive right into this. Welcome, Nitya. So good to see you again.
Thank you, Annika. Lovely to be here.
So, shall we just? I think this is such an interesting subject again. I think that all these subjects about sound that we are covering are very interesting and very important as well. But this one is very interesting because I think this is a very common, the questions about this subject about do we need to learn Sanskrit and how do we learn Sanskrit language if we are yoga teachers? I think it's a very common question. So I'm very happy that we can speak about this a little bit with you in this masterclass. Shall we just dive right in?
Yep.
So one of the questions that we hear very often is, do we really need to learn Sanskrit? How much of Sanskrit do we need to know as a student or as a teacher of yoga?
My father often used to say we can divide any area of knowledge or learning, or rather look at it from three aspects. That which is essential to know, something that is useful to know, and a third which is nice to know. That is, if we take up any subject, there is a fundamental understanding of the topic that is very essential for me. I must know, that's my foundation. So that part of the knowledge is what we call really essential to know.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can study further about the subject, and then I learn more things which are useful to know, which add on to my understanding, which help me reflect, help me deepen my practice or experience, for example. And then as a third layer, there are things that are simply nice to know, that are not truly essential or affect my understanding of the subject, but they are nice to know in that subject as well. So if we look at, say, Sanskrit from that perspective, right? What is really essential to know, what is useful to know, and what is nice to know. If we take, say, asana names, for example, right? Now, asana names are, in my opinion, just nice to know, right? It doesn't matter whether I call it Ushtrasana or camel pose, right? It doesn't matter whether I call it Urdhva Dhanurasana or the wheel, right? What I really need to know is how do I move and breathe so that I do not go into my lower back, for example, and how do I open up my upper back in a camel or go into the segments of my spine which are stiff, etc. Right? So that is really what I need to know essentially about the camel pose or the wheel pose, not the name. So I would say the asana names, for example, are the nice to know category. Right? Now, if we say useful to know, we could say, for example, if I knew how to chant some of the Yoga Sutras, right, which is also what we're going to do in Amsterdam this time. Once I have a fundamental understanding of the concepts in the sutras, it's useful for me to know some key sutras for chanting because they can help me reflect, they can help me deepen my understanding, my experience of the topic if I know to chant the sutras. So that could be useful to know. On the other hand, what is absolutely essential for me to know would actually be my personal mantra, for example. Right? I must know how to use my mantra, if I have chosen one in Sanskrit, how to actually pronounce it comfortably, to know where I'm producing the sounds from, where the vibrations are coming from, what is the meaning of the mantra. Now, these are essential, fundamental. Right? But having said that, a mantra doesn't necessarily only have to be in Sanskrit. But it's a useful way to look at things, right? When I look at learning a topic, what is really essential to know, what is useful to know, and what is nice to know.
Mm-hmm.
See, what I mean by a personal mantra is what you use for your personal practice. It doesn't have to be unique to you. That's not what I mean when I said personal. So, different people could use the same mantra and it would still be personal for you depending on the way you use it, the intention and the meaning that you set for it. But yes, it is essential to know the meaning of a mantra, isn't it? Ultimately, because just as in asana practice or any other aspect of yoga, we say that this is not faith-based learning, right? It is not simply based on my teacher says so. It should be based on my understanding of it. Why am I doing what I'm doing? How am I doing what I'm doing? So that doesn't change in the area of Sanskrit or mantras either, that I should really know why I'm chanting what I'm chanting and how I should chant it.
Yes. And and then another question that I often hear is that when I'm chanting a mantra, you need to understand it to practice it. Also, in order to teach a mantra, you need to understand the Sanskrit meaning. Is this true?
Yes, of course, because unless I understand it and practice it, it's not going to really go deep in me, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The intention actually that we give to a sound is primarily what determines its benefit at the end of the day. Therefore, as in with any language, it is important, definitely to a certain extent, to understand what is it that I'm chanting and why.
And another question about the sound of Om, because I think this is a very common mantra that we use as yoga teachers. And I hear this in all kinds of communities all over the world. This is a very famous, popular, and common little mantra to chant. You can explain this in a very basic way, and I even think if you ask 10 different yoga teachers, maybe you get 10 slightly different kind of explanations. And I even think also that we can dive really deep into the meaning of the sound of Om. And this is only a very simple or small sound. So you can imagine how complex this subject is. But how do you feel about it? For example, the sound of Om. If we have just a small understanding, a little bit knowledge about it, is it wise to teach our students this? Or should we really first know the whole deep, complex? Do we need to have this understanding before we can teach this?
You can go ahead and teach as far as Om is concerned. Yes, Om has several layers of meaning because it is very old, probably even older than the Yoga Sutras, because it's also mentioned in the Upanishads and some of the older texts. There are passages which talk about the meanings of Om, etc. But having said that, a simple sound, Om, is just a syllable sound. So, using simple sounds like, for example, Namaha or Shanti or Pahi or simple words that can be used like mantras, you can go ahead and teach it once you're comfortable with it. Once you are comfortable practicing it, there is nothing that prevents you from actually teaching it by setting the right intention for the students as well. Because sound in that sense is always very useful. Even if you do not completely understand it, to a certain extent, you have an understanding in yourself and you're able to set that correct intention for that sound and you're able to practice it. Yeah, why not?
So if I can translate it also like this, as far as I understand, this is what I can teach.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then how? Next question for you is, how can we start learning Sanskrit? Do you have any suggestions for this?
See, learning Sanskrit is a big task if we want to learn it as a language. As we started off by saying, why do I want to learn Sanskrit? Now, if I want to learn Sanskrit from actually learning it as a language, That is, I want to be able to read, for example, an ancient text or the Yoga Sutras, or to that level of understanding, I really want to learn it as a language, then definitely it will need several years of dedicated study, because it is an ancient language. There is a lot of grammar and syntax that goes with it. Ganesh and myself used to study it outside of school for several years with the principal of Sanskrit college. I remember we used to go for classes every week. So it takes a while if you really want to master the language. Also depends, how much aptitude the person has. Some people are very quick at learning languages, while others, struggle a little with learning a new language.
How old were you and Ganesh when you were learning?
In school, I think probably I must have been 13, 14, and maybe he was 8 or 9.
Okay.
We studied it for some 6, 7 years. We did Sanskrit in school, but the Sanskrit that is done in school is very superficial. In the schooling system, it's just done very, very little. So we actually went separately to study for several hours a week. Mm-hmm. But not everyone needs to learn Sanskrit at that depth. They're not looking to actually master it as a language to speak it or read a text or write Sanskrit. What they are probably looking more for commonly is learning to pronounce Sanskrit. Right? So now when we talk about learning to pronounce Sanskrit, it's easier to approach it from the perspective of phonetics. Mm-hmm. Right? There are several examples of sutras, like the Maheshwara Sutras, which are very famous as the source of where the Sanskrit language came from. There are also the grammatical, some texts contain the Panini Ashtadhyayi Sutras, which are essentially classifying the various sounds of the Sanskrit language phonetically. So not as an alphabet or grammar, but grouping sounds together based on the sounds and where they are produced from. Now that might be an easier point to start with, and also a more useful point, so that it will actually help me to pronounce whatever I am chanting better.
Mm-hmm. Can we practice this a little bit? How would you start teaching me this?
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, we can. The Maheshwara Sutras are quite short. They're just around 14 phrases. And they go like this. I will just chant a few for you to listen. For example, it goes like this. A, I, U, N, R, R, K, E, O, Ng, I, Au, Ch, Haya, Varat, Larna, Nya, Ma, Nga, Na, Nama, Jha, Bhai, Gha, Dha, Dha, Sh, Jabba, Ga, Da, Da, Sh, Kha, Pa, Cha, Tha, Tha, Chata, Tab, Kapai, Shasha, Sar, Hal, Iti, Maheshwarani, Sutrani. So they basically contain all the sounds of the Sanskrit language. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can try a few for fun.
Yeah, because
yeah, why not?
This is then nice to know for me right at this point.
See, this is more the nice to know category, learning to chant it. But going a little deeper later, for example, now when you try chanting the sounds, you might find that some of the sounds are easy for me to say. Some of the sounds are not native in my language. So I cannot pronounce them very easily. This is true for everyone, right? Depending on what sounds we've been used to speaking since we were small. So then you might say, okay, I'm not able to pronounce this sound, and why and how can I pronounce it? Can I find a family of sounds that support the production of this sound? Where can I feel it from in my body? Where do I feel the vibrations? How do I place my tongue, my mouth, my cheeks to pronounce it? That could be really interesting. and useful to
and
experience.
useful. Yeah, then it really becomes useful.
Yeah.
I really like this, how we started today. Nice to know, useful to know, and essential to know. And then if it becomes more the pronunciation of my mantra, then it becomes an essential. I love this framework that you are pointing out. So where shall we start? Because the whole thing is maybe a little bit too
We'll
much.
just do a few of them, just maybe 4 or 5 sutras. I will just say them and you can try repeating them after me.
Yes, I will try.
A, I, U, N.
A, I, U, N.
R, R, K.
R, R, K.
E, O, N.
E, O, N.
I, O, Ch.
I, O, Ch.
H, Ya.
Ha, Ya.
V, Ra, T.
V, R, T.
La, N.
La, N.
That was well done.
Thank you. It's really, I found that that it's like some tones are already more used in my language, in Dutch. It makes it a little bit more easier. Some tones are very like this nasal tones. It's very difficult for me from my Dutch language. I can imagine maybe people in China find it a little bit more easier, or different countries where you're more used to these tones, different languages.
Yes, I find that all the time when I'm teaching in different countries. Yes, it's very natural to produce some sounds based on the sounds that exist more commonly in that language. So, the French might find one thing easy while the Germans find that difficult, and the other way around. So it really depends on, but it's useful training, I think, for the brain as well, to learn to produce different sounds, to listen and actually produce the different sounds. And then, as we said earlier, if we can take this a little deeper and actually use it from the sense of, am I able to actually comfortably pronounce the mantras that I'm using every day, for example, then it really becomes very useful application.
Yes. Wow. Very, very nice. I think this is a very, very beautiful practice. Also, like a very mindful practice, like you said. And how can we learn more? Like when I like to go a little bit deeper into this, how would you suggest?
We will do some work in the sound program on it. We'll do a little bit of the sounds and the syllables and the different sounds. Depending on how much time we have, then we can take it deeper.
Good, very good. And yeah, great. Let's do that. Let's continue working on this. And for now, I would like to round up this masterclass. So we were practicing with the sounds. We were going a little bit more deeper into what is important for yoga teachers, and how do we see the difference between what is nice, useful, and essential to know. I really like this framework that your father used to teach you and us as well. So we can bring a lot of things back to that as well. So thank you so much for this 4th masterclass in this series of 4th. So I really enjoyed working with you, and I hope that a lot of people were inspired as well to learn more about sound and the wisdom and the deep understanding of sound. Like really, maybe people are inspired to dive a little bit more deeper into this.
Thank you.
Thank you.